Hey guys, welcome back to the check-in. Thanks for checking in with me today. Um, I'm going to talk about the 90s now, and just everything really that I can remember about that time. It was a great time, the 90s. Incredible. Certainly, as a child, it was an incredible time to grow up. With the internet age was obviously there, and it was creeping in quickly as we was heading towards the millennium. But it was so primitive. It was the internet era was so it, it was so it was so shit. It was so basic that hardly anybody ever used the internet then. Of course, as a probably 7-year old, 8-year old, or whatever it was. Yeah, maybe 9. I can't remember, but I think it might have been 8 or 9 years old. Maybe 10. I don't know. But anyway, certainly the late 90s. I I remember going to school, walking to school. Well, even I'll sort of describe an average day really. Going to primary school was usually either a case of holding my mum's hand all the way to school, or well, maybe not holding around, but not when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, 10 years old. I probably wasn't doing that. I can't remember, but I don't think so. But certainly going to school with my mother or father. Normally it's my mother because my dad couldn't be asked. So it usually entailed going with my mother or going with my friend who was David, known as David Hultham then, or Fleetham actually, David Fleetham or Fleetham, which he got ridiculed for unbelievable amount of mockery. That's probably why he changed his name. But I remember sometimes his granddad used to pick us up actually, in his I think it was a H-Reg Scorpion, classic car now actually, incredible car. It had like leather seats, like heated seats and stuff. It was incredible for as a kid. Great thing. Um, Sorry, I'm just looking at him because she's I don't know what she's doing. She seems a bit lost, a bit like me. And over there we have Muyong. I don't know if you can see her. But yeah, it was great. It was a fabulous time. Watching cartoons in the morning, things like Transformers, Digimon, Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. And then just have a cup of tea before we used to go. And that's how we used to just walk, at the time before, it was a time before kids had mobile phones, really. In fact, it was really, kids didn't really have mobile phones, as far as I was aware. I certainly didn't. And my most of the people I knew certainly didn't. If probably not all. I don't think any kids did have mobile phones of their own in the late 90s. I don't think it was even a thing until towards the mid 2000s that started to become a popular thing. But yeah, it was a great time, watching cartoons on the telly. There's so many good children's TV programs, game shows, just different types of series and dramas and all sorts of stuff. It's just incredible. Great movies, some great music around that time as well. I don't know, there's just something about the country at that time. It's just it was different. There was something different. It was just there was more sense of a community, even in the 90s, even though it was changing. It was still more of a sense of community than there is today, I think. Certainly in regards to council estates. I grew up in East Hull on a council estate called Greatfield, and it was a great place actually during the summer. I used to love it in the summer holidays. There's the summer, you had to watch out for the bullies and the arsehole kids and whatever. But there was something about that. I don't know what it was. It was just something about a certain level of freedom and exploration, because there was a next to the estate actually it's just field basically. It's the end of. It's the boundary on that part of the city, of east of Hull, which leads onto the countryside towards Heading and so forth. It was just fantastic, and I just remember growing up with toys and watching wrestling on the TV on a Friday, Saturday night, and just incredible times, really. It really was. I cannot really fully express just how much of a joy and how much magic it was as a child back then. There was certainly downsides, but after nothing is ever perfect, and of course there is an element of me looking back with rose tinted glasses as well, of course, but. I genuinely think there was, to some extent, it was a better time. That's just my opinion. But yeah, going to school and playing on the internet, it was just ridiculously slow. Going on Fox Kids. I don't think it's a thing anymore. Like foxkids.co.uk. I'd imagine that's whatever. I don't know, .com, whatever. And trying to play this game was just ridiculously crap and slow. And it was just this tunnel I remember, and for some reason I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was this game of Pokemon, and it just took forever to load. I think it must have been on Windows 95 or something. Crazy times. But yeah, and I just remembered that hardly anybody had a mobile phone then. Not unless you was, in business or whatever. But generally speaking, most people didn't really have a mobile phone. People just used their house phones. There's telephones in the schools and stuff like that, and offices, whatever. Laptops. I think laptops were in existence, but they're very, very basic. Towards the late 90s, I believe. Of course, it's not. We're not talking about 50 years ago. You're only talking about just over 20 years ago, but it's still a long time ago. And a lot of shit's changed. In some ways, in good, some ways not so much. And shout out to Dangerfield, by the way. Go and check out the YouTube channel Dangerfield. That guy is a legend. It's kind of one of the reasons I wanted to make this video, actually, because even though he grew up in the 70s and 80s, I grew up in the 90s and 2000s. But what he said about he was talking about Christmas and the traditions and so forth, and he sort of just connected with me. And I remember, when I was at primary school, I sang in the choir and sang Christmas songs, and it's just. And I performed in the nativity and stuff. I remember the rehearsals with Mrs. Fowler. It was just beautiful times, man. Beautiful times to be a kid. Even in the 90s, even though things were getting more and more consumer driven, it was still, even then, it was still a good time to there was still a lot of elements of our culture that was well, I say our culture, but inherited, things that we've inherited and we've took with us that we consider to be British culture or English culture, that were still in existence then, are certainly more respected and less criticised than they are today. It's just, the political correctness stuff started way beyond the 90s, but of course, it started to get pretty bad from the 90s onwards, really. But it's political correctness has always been there, and that's people for you. But as a kid, I didn't even understand words like that. I wasn't even aware of words like that, and I'm glad that I wasn't, because I'm glad that I remember the 90s as I do. As an adult, the 90s might have been very different. If I was an adult during the 90s, I would have, maybe now, as a 40-something-year-old man or whatever, would have had a very different take on it. But as a kid, yeah, it was just as a school, going to Allfleet Primary School, it was just being on that stage and the piano, and a time before, technology really took off. We're talking about a time where we're still using, blackboards, whiteboards. I don't recall there being interactive boards, but I could be wrong there. I think that came during the early 2000s. But most of my time at Allfleet Primary School was as lessons were on blackboards. And even that's actually, some of that was the same in when I went to secondary school or high school. But even the early 2000s was great as well. There was just a lot of excitement leading up to the 2001 period. It's just such a special time. It's virtually impossible to describe it, because there's so much emotions attached to it, to that time for me. Just beautiful memories, beautiful times. Simpler, like everything is. It's always simpler in many ways. It was a simpler time, like, as compared to today. Just like today will be a simpler time, probably compared to 20 years from now. But it's just the colours, the fashion, the whole pop culture thing, and a lot of it was cringy. I'm not going to lie, a lot of it was cringy. But certainly now looking back on it, it is. But that was the 90s. That was the if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, your view of the 90s might not be very nice. It might not be very in support of what happened then and everything. But growing up, I think a lot of us, no matter what era we grow up, we're attached to that time. No matter what, we don't like people criticising it. But perhaps that's because it was a better time. Just as kids that are growing up now, 20 years from now, they might make a video similar to what I'm making now about this time. And maybe it's just once you get to being an adult, you start to protect your memories, and you start to hold them more closer to your heart, really. I cannot begin to tell you how much I miss that time, and just a time before all this political, progressive, social, absolute, utter insanity, and everything just becoming fucking overly serious, and it's just such a shame. I don't really know what else, to say. It's just I just feel like it's sad. It's disappointing with the way a lot of things have gone in regards to culture, and this whole diversity push. I mean, it's just, I was watching something earlier on Channel 4, and you don't have to look at the shit that the BBC's the propaganda machine that the BBC is these days, and ITV and all the rest of them. It's just, I don't know. It's just all gone, man. It's all gone. All the stuff that I used to like and cherish, and it's just gone. But that's part of growing up. That's part of life, and nothing is ever concrete. But thank God I've got the memories, and thank God that I grew up in that time. I could make a whole series on this. In fact, I might do anyway. I've already made, I think, one or two videos on the 90s before, but I really would like to talk about my childhood and growing up, and some of the things I experienced, and what it was like growing up in that time. It was fantastic. I love that lightning bolt. I don't know if you heard it there. I'm going to conclude this video. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you grew up in the 90s, you might, if you grew up in Hull, or went to the school I went to, or just lived for the 90s in England, you probably know what I'm talking about. Fantastic times, and very, very, very much missed. Anyway, guys, thanks for checking in with me today. Let's check out, and see you in the next video. Take care, bye-bye.